The grand chamber of the Galactic Council hummed with the voices of 300 alien species. The vast dome above them showed stars and galaxies swirling in real time, a reminder of their collective power. Today's meeting had reached its final item, the assessment of a newly discovered intelligent species from a small blue planet in an unremarkable solar system. Elder Taiho walked slowly to the speaking platform, his aged Doran body moving with deliberate grace. His skin had the pale blue shimmer that came only with great age, and the wisdom markings across his forehead glowed softly. Unlike many of the younger representatives who wore elaborate ceremonial attire, Taiho dressed simply in traditional robes. He needed no decoration to command respect. His 5,000 years of diplomatic service spoke for itself. The chamber quieted as he reached the central podium. Even those council members who disagreed with his typically cautious approach respected his experience. "Esteemed colleagues," Taiho began, his voice surprisingly strong for his age, "I come before you today with grave concerns about our planned approach to the species known as humans." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Humans were considered a minor agenda item, hardly worth the attention of the full council. "I have spent the last 60 cycles studying this species," Taiho continued, touching a control that projected images above the chamber floor. "What I found deeply troubles me. The images showed Earth's history, wars, rebuilding, technological leaps, more wars, and faster rebuilding. The progression of human technology appeared as an ever-steepening curve." "Look closely," Taiho said, highlighting specific data points. These beings went from simple flight to landing on their moon in less than 70 years, from basic computing to global information networks in 50. Their rate of adaptation is unlike anything we've encountered. Representative, Jury of the Tavlek Confederation stood up. "Elder Taiho, with respect, many species show rapid technological growth in their early development stages. The humans have barely left their planet. They've only sent primitive probes beyond their solar system." Taiho nodded patiently. "Yes, but observe their pattern of advancement. Most species develop steadily during peaceful periods and stagnate during conflicts. Humans are different." He displayed new images, human wars followed by technological explosions. They advance fastest when threatened. Their greatest technological leaps come directly after or during their worst conflicts. The chamber grew, restless. This was taking time from more important matters. Taiho sensed their impatience but continued, his voice growing more urgent. "They split the atom to create weapons, then harnessed that knowledge for power. They developed global communication technologies for military advantage, then transformed them into worldwide information networks. Even their space program began as a competition between rival powers." He paused, letting his next words carry weight. "Humanity thrives where others would perish. They've survived countless self-inflicted near-extinction events and emerged stronger each time." Representative Daehyun of the Malorian Assembly laughed openly. "Are we to fear a species that constantly tries to destroy itself? That seems like our work already half done." Several council members joined in the laughter, but Taiho remained serious. "That is precisely what you should fear," he said quietly, silencing the room. "A species tempered by its own harshness. Their planet has extreme environments, burning deserts, frozen wastelands, dense jungles, vast oceans. They've adapted to live in all of them. Their bodies are remarkably resilient, capable of surviving injuries that would kill most sentient beings." Taiho displayed new images, humans continuing after severe injuries, surviving in extreme conditions, rebuilding cities after devastating natural disasters. "They call it human spirit," he explained, "an intangible quality that drives them to continue when logic says they should surrender. I've found no translation for this concept in any of our languages." High Councillor Min-young leaned forward, finally showing interest. "What exactly are you suggesting, Elder? That we leave this developing world alone? They have resources we need, and their location is strategically valuable." Taiho took a deep breath. "I am suggesting we approach with genuine diplomatic respect, not our standard diplomatic annexation. Humans respond poorly to shows of force or demands. History shows they unite against external threats instantly, setting aside their internal conflicts. So we should fear these primitive beings who haven't even achieved reliable interstellar travel? Asked Daehyun, making no effort to hide his contempt. Beings who still fight with chemical projectiles and crude energy weapons. Yes, Taiho said simply. Not for what they are now, but for what they rapidly become when threatened. Our standard annexation protocol will fail catastrophically. With humans. The council chambers filled with dismissive chatter. Taiho waited for it to subside, then made one final appeal. I have served this council for 5 millennia. In that time, I have never raised an unnecessary alarm. I am asking you now to heed my warning. Do not anger humanity. Approach them as equals or leave them alone until they find us on their own terms. High Councillor Minyoung stood, signaling the end of discussion. Your concerns are noted, Elder Taiho. The Council will proceed with standard protocol. The humans are pre-interstellar and therefore subject to annexation per Galactic Law Section 5. Taiho bowed his head in resignation. Then I formally register my dissent and request it be recorded permanently. So noted, Minyoung said dismissively. The Marek fleet will proceed with first contact and annexation notice within the next cycle. This meeting is adjourned. As the council members filed out, Taiho remained at the podium, looking at the final image still displayed. A human child helping another up after a fall. So simple, yet it captured everything the council was missing about this species. They'll surprise you, he whispered to the now empty chamber, and the galaxy will never be the same. Commander Sunwoo stood on the bridge of the Marek flagship, Inevitable Victory, a name that reflected the absolute confidence of both its captain and the Galactic Council. The massive ship, over 3 miles long, led a fleet of 30 vessels, now positioned in Earth's orbit. Behind him, bridge officers monitored thousands of data streams from the planet below. Though small for a life-bearing world, Earth teemed with activity that the sensors struggled to fully process. Quite noisy for primitives, remarked First Officer Jinho, studying the communications intercepts. They broadcast everything openly. Sunwoo nodded. Makes our job easier. Have you selected their major population centers for the demonstration? Yes, Commander. We've identified their 20 largest cities and military command structures. Sunwoo had conducted 17 similar annexations in his career. The process was routine. Appear in overwhelming force, demonstrate superior technology by disabling key infrastructure, broadcast demands, accept surrender, install interim governance. The Council had done this hundreds of times with pre-interstellar civilizations. Elder Taiho's warnings had been noted and promptly ignored. Begin the annexation protocol, Sunwoo ordered. Across Earth, regular broadcasts suddenly cut out. Every screen, from massive public displays to personal devices, switched to show Commander Sunwoo's face. His appearance, greenish-scaled skin, large eyes with vertical pupils and a lipless mouth, caused immediate panic in some regions. People of Earth, he began, his words automatically translated into all major Earth languages. I am Commander. Sunwoo of the Galactic Council Annexation Fleet. Your world has been designated for integration into the Galactic Commonwealth. This is not a negotiation. Your planetary governments will surrender authority to Council representatives within 6 hours. Resistance will result in demonstration of power. Cooperation will be rewarded with technological advancement and protection. That is all. The message repeated 3 times before screens returned to their previous content, now filled with breaking news and panicked reactions. In the White House Situation Room, the President of the United States slammed her fist on the table. Get me every world leader on a secure line now, and I want our military options. Similar scenes played out in Beijing, Moscow, New Delhi, and capitals worldwide. For the first time in human history, governments that had been bitter rivals found their differences suddenly insignificant. Back on the Inevitable Victory, Sunwoo watched the planet's reaction with mild interest. They're scrambling their primitive aircraft, reported Security Chief Dongho. Military bases worldwide are at highest alert. Their global communication networks are overloaded with traffic. Expected behavior, Sunwoo replied. They'll posture until the demonstration. Then they'll understand the futility of resistance. 6 hours passed. No surrender came. They're more stubborn than anticipated, Sun Wu noted without concern. Begin the demonstration. Level 1 power only. We don't want to damage the infrastructure we'll soon control. Across Earth, targeted energy pulses struck military installations. Aircraft carriers lost power and drifted helplessly. Air bases went dark as electrical systems failed. Missile silos became inoperable. The display of power was precise and overwhelming. Or should have been. What the Marak hadn't accounted for was the human tendency to build redundancies and backups born from decades of preparing for warfare among themselves. And they certainly hadn't expected the immediate cooperation between nations that had been adversaries just hours before. Commander, we're detecting launches from multiple locations, Dongho reported suddenly, his voice showing rare concern. The humans are using short-range missiles with unusual guidance systems. Primitive projectiles can't penetrate our shields, Sun Wu said dismissively. Let them waste their resources. But something was wrong. The missiles weren't following predictable trajectories. They zigged and zagged, seemingly aware of the defensive systems targeting them. Their targeting technology shouldn't be this advanced, Jinho said, confusion evident in his voice. Moments later, the first explosions rocked several smaller vessels in the fleet. Sun Wu stood in shock as damage reports flooded in. How is this possible? He demanded. Their weapons are based on chemical propellants and crude explosives. Analysis shows they've combined technologies in ways our simulations didn't predict, Dongho replied, frantically working his console. They're using our own scan patterns to guide their weapons through shield gaps. On Earth, a hastily assembled international team had noticed the alien ship's scanning patterns created momentary weaknesses in their defensive fields. In less than 6 hours, they had reprogrammed missile guidance systems to exploit this weakness. The humans have adapted their weapons, Jinho reported in disbelief. They've somehow analyzed our technology and found a vulnerability in mere hours. Another explosion, this time closer. The inevitable victory shuddered. Impossible. Sun Wu whispered. In orbit, the smaller Marak vessels were taking significant damage. While their technology was far superior, the sheer number and adaptation speed of human counterattacks had caught them completely unprepared. A military base in Russia that should have been neutralized launched another barrage of missiles. These, containing electromagnetic pulse generators modified after studying the energy signatures from the alien ships. 2 support vessels have lost power, Dongho reported, real fear in his voice now. The humans are specifically targeting our propulsion systems. Sun Wu had never faced such a situation. The protocol had always worked before. Primitives surrendered when shown superior technology. They didn't immediately adapt and fight back with unexpected effectiveness. Commander, request new instructions, Jinho urged, as another explosion rocked the ship. Sun Wu made the hardest decision of his career. Signal the fleet. Tactical retreat to regroup position beyond their moon. Retreat? From primitives? Dongho couldn't hide his shock. Do it now. We've lost 4 ships already. We need to reassess. As the Marak fleet withdrew, military leaders on Earth watched in disbelief. Their desperate gamble had worked, at least temporarily. They'll be back, said the Chinese general, staring at the tracking screens showing the alien fleet moving away. And they'll be prepared for our tricks next. Time. The American admiral nodded grimly. Then we'd better come up with new ones fast. In a secret bunker deep beneath Geneva, a hastily formed international scientific team was already reverse engineering recovered fragments from damaged alien vessels. The clock was ticking. Aboard the inevitable Victory, Commander Sun Wu prepared his report to the Council. How could he explain losing ships to a pre-interstellar civilization? The words of Elder Tejo echoed uncomfortably in his mind. Humanity thrives where others would perish. They advance fastest when threatened. For the first time in his career, Sun Wu felt genuine uncertainty about an annexation mission. Something told him the Council had made a terrible mistake. High Minister Jiwon's face darkened as Commander Sun Wu's report concluded. The Council chamber, normally a place of measured debate, had erupted into chaos. 7 Marak ships lost to a pre-interstellar species. It was unprecedented. "This is completely unacceptable," Ji-won said, her voice cutting through the noise. The tall, elegant leader of the council rarely showed emotion, but today her silver eyes flashed with anger. "Commander Sunwoo, you have disgraced the annexation forces and embarrassed this council." Sunwoo bowed his head on the view screen. "High Minister, the humans displayed capabilities far beyond their technological level. They adapted to our—" "Enough excuses!" Ji-won slammed her hand on the polished table. "A primitive species should not be able to damage our fleet, let alone force a retreat." From his seat at the far end of the chamber, Elder Taiho watched silently. He had warned them, but the council rarely admitted mistakes. "What do we know about these humans now?" asked Representative Hyunki of the Valari Dominion. Analytics Director Junho stepped forward, projecting images from Earth. "In the 3 weeks since first contact, the humans have united in unprecedented ways. Former enemy nations now share military resources and scientific knowledge. They've recovered debris from our damaged vessels and are studying them in facilities worldwide. New images appeared, human scientists working on alien technology, military units training together, global defense systems being constructed. Most concerning," Junho continued, "they're adapting much faster than our models predicted. They've already replicated some of our lower-tier technology and are incorporating it into their defense systems." The council members exchanged worried glances. "Then we must act decisively," Ji-won declared. "I'm authorizing a full punitive expedition. We will deploy the Third Fleet with Planet Cracker support vessels." Gasps filled the chamber. Planet Crackers were last resort weapons, capable of shattering a world's crust. "High Minister," Taiho's voice cut through the commotion as he rose slowly to his feet. "I must once again caution against this course of action." Ji-won's expression showed barely controlled irritation. "Elder Taiho, you've already registered your concern about these humans. The Council has noted it. And events have proven me correct," Taiho replied calmly. He shuffled to the central platform, his age showing in every careful step. Once there, he activated his own data display. "What you're seeing is humanity's technological progression curve compared to other species we've encountered." The line, representing human advancement, started normally, but then began to spike dramatically. Notice these acceleration points, all corresponding to periods of great threat or conflict. He highlighted specific moments in human history. Their First World War led to aircraft advancement. Their second created nuclear technology and early computing. The Cold War that followed gave them space travel and global communications. Each time they faced extinction, they made generational leaps forward. Taiho looked directly at Ji-won. "You've awakened something terrible, a species that turns its endless internal conflicts into a forge for innovation. And now you've given them a common enemy and access to our technology." Ji-won's expression remained unmoved. "What would you have us do, Elder? Retreat from primitives, allow this humiliation to stand? The Council's authority would be questioned throughout the galaxy." "I suggest genuine diplomatic engagement," Taiho replied. "Offer knowledge exchange rather than demanding submission." Laughter rippled through the chamber. "Negotiate with pre-interstellar barbarians?" Representative Hyunki scoffed. "Absurd," Ji-won nodded. "The decision is made. Admiral Manhee will lead the Third Fleet to Earth. This human resistance will be crushed decisively." Taiho's shoulders slumped slightly as he returned to his seat. Once again, they refused to listen. On Earth, inside the International Research Facility beneath the Swiss Alps, Dr. Raj Patel stared in amazement at the alien power cell they'd recovered. His team had been working around the clock for weeks. "It's beautiful," he whispered. "The way it manipulates quantum fields to generate energy. It's at least 2 centuries beyond anything we've theorized." Across the room, Dr. Keiko Tanaka successfully activated a piece of alien navigation equipment. "We've got it. The gravitational mapping system is online." Similar breakthroughs were happening in labs worldwide. Humanity's brightest minds, no longer separated by national rivalries or corporate secrecy, worked with desperate efficiency. The alien attack had done what nothing else could: united human innovation toward a single goal. In orbit around Mars, the first human ships equipped with reverse-engineered alien technology underwent testing. They weren't as advanced as the Merak vessels, but they incorporated human ingenuity with alien tech in ways the Council species never considered. Early warning system detecting massive hyperspace signatures approaching the solar system, announced the mission controller at NASA's expanded headquarters. Much bigger than the First Fleet, the president of the United Global Defense Council nodded gravely. How long do we have? 3 days at most. Then we go with what we've got, she replied. Activate the shield net. Around Earth, thousands of satellites modified with alien technology formed an energy barrier. It wouldn't stop the invasion, but it might buy precious time. Admiral Minhee stood on the command deck of the Third Fleet's flagship, Celestial Dominance, a vessel 10 times larger than Sunwoo's inevitable victory. Behind her, 500 warships prepared to exit hyperspace near Earth. Status report, she ordered. All vessels combat ready, Admiral, her executive officer responded. Planet crackers armed and standing by. Minhee nodded. The Council expects this operation to be finished within 1 planetary rotation. These humans must learn their place in the galactic order. The fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. Immediately, alarms blared across the command deck. Multiple contacts approaching from the 4th planet, the sensor officer shouted. Human vessels, with energy signatures similar to our own technology. Minhee frowned. Impossible. They couldn't have developed interplanetary combat vessels so quickly. But the evidence was undeniable. Human ships, crewed by Council standards, but enhanced with stolen technology, engaged the leading elements of the Third Fleet. Their tactics were unlike anything in the Council military database, unpredictable, seemingly chaotic, yet devastatingly effective. They're using modified versions of our own weapons against us, the tactical officer reported in disbelief. And they're targeting our ships in patterns we've never encountered. On Earth's moon, massive cannons constructed in secret-fired volleys that disrupted the formations of the approaching fleet. The humans had prepared dozens of surprises, learning from the first encounter and anticipating the Council's return. Admiral, the communications officer called out, we're detecting transmission attempts from multiple human sources. They're trying to communicate. Ignore them, Minhee snapped. Continue the advance. As the Third Fleet pushed toward Earth, they encountered layer after layer of defenses. Some were purely human innovations. Others cleverly combined human creativity with reversed engineered alien tech. The planet crackers, requiring precise positioning to be effective, became prime targets for human suicide missions. Aboard the Celestial Dominance, Admiral Minhee watched in growing horror as her fleet took losses that should have been impossible. The humans weren't fighting like a pre-interstellar species. They were fighting like cornered animals with nothing to lose, using tactics no civilized species would consider. We've lost 60 vessels already, her executive officer reported, voice shaking. The humans are broadcasting technical details of our ships to their entire defense network. They're adapting to our countermeasures almost instantly. Minhee gripped the command rail until her knuckles whitened. The grand punitive expedition, meant to restore the Council's honor, was becoming a disaster of unprecedented scale. Admiral, the communications officer said hesitantly, we're receiving a message from Elder Taiho of the Council. Minhee closed her eyes briefly. Put it through. Elder Taiho's ancient face appeared on screen. Admiral, I've convinced several Council members to reconsider. You are authorized to attempt diplomatic contact if military operations are not proceeding as expected. The ship rocked as another human attack broke through their shields. I understand, Elder, Minhee replied. For the first time in her career, the path to victory wasn't clear. These humans didn't fight like any species the Council had ever encountered. They seemed to thrive in the chaos of battle, adapting and improvising in ways that defied military doctrine. Perhaps Elder Taiho had been right all along. Admiral Minho stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, Earth's first true interstellar warship. A year ago, he had been commanding naval vessels on the Pacific Ocean. Now he was leading humanity's counteroffensive against an alien coalition that had gravely underestimated his species. All ships report ready, Admiral, his executive officer announced. The bridge hummed with activity as crew members, selected from naval forces worldwide, managed systems that merged human ingenuity with reverse-engineered alien technology. Minho studied the tactical display showing his fleet of 30 ships. Small by Council standards, but each vessel incorporated modifications the aliens would never expect. "Send the final message to Earth Command," Minho ordered. "Then activate jump drives." The message was simple. Operation Unexpected Guest commencing. "See you on the other side." Space distorted around the human fleet as they engaged their copied version of Council hyperspace technology. Unlike the elegant, precise jumps of alien vessels, human hyperspace travel was rough and dangerously unpredictable. But it worked. In a flash of energy, Earth's first attack fleet disappeared from the solar system. On the Council world of Terralax, the local governor was enjoying a lavish celebration. The third moon was in optimal viewing position, creating spectacular rings in the night sky. "To the eternal stability of the Council," he toasted, raising a crystal goblet. His guests, wealthy merchants and minor officials, echoed the sentiment. None of them noticed the brief flashes in high orbit. None heard the frantic warnings from the minimal defense force as unknown vessels appeared from hyperspace. By the time alarm sounded across the capital city, human strike teams had already disabled the planetary shield generators. Admiral Minho had chosen Terralax carefully, a wealthy agricultural world, lightly defended, far from the Council's military hubs. Not a target for conquest, but perfect for sending a message. By morning, the governor found himself facing human officers across his own ornate desk. "This planet is now under Earth authority," the human commander informed him calmly. "Your people will not be harmed if they cooperate. We require your communication systems and complete access to your central databases." "This is outrageous," the governor sputtered. "We are a peaceful world. We had nothing to do with the attacks on Earth." The human officer's expression remained impassive. "You benefit from Council protection and pay Council taxes that fund their military. You are not innocent bystanders." Within hours, humans controlled the planet's orbital facilities and main cities. Unlike Council annexations, they made no attempts to replace local government beyond military oversight. Their focus seemed entirely on information and technology. Similar scenes played out across 6 other outlying Council worlds in a coordinated strike that sent shockwaves through the galactic community. Humans, supposedly primitive barbarians, had somehow mastered interstellar travel and multi-planet military operations in less than a year. On the Council homeworld, Elder Taiho shuffled through the back corridors of the government complex. Once a respected advisor, he now found himself ostracized for his continued advocacy for diplomatic solutions with the humans. Most Council members avoided eye contact as he passed. Some openly sneered at the human sympathizer. He reached a small unmarked chamber where diplomat Junho waited nervously. "Were you followed?" Junho asked, eyes darting toward the door. "At my age, nobody pays attention to where I wander," Taiho replied with a small smile. "Do you have the secure communication device?" Junho nodded, activating a small rectangular object on the table. The room's lights dimmed as a holographic projection formed, a human woman in a simple uniform, her face showing the strain of leadership in crisis. "Elder Taiho," she acknowledged. "I'm General Chen, Earth Defense Force. We appreciate this channel." Taiho bowed slightly. "I wish it existed under better circumstances, General. I've just heard about your attacks on Council border worlds." "Not attacks. Strategic information gathering," Chen corrected. "We've harmed no civilians and will withdraw once our objectives are complete." "The Council doesn't see that distinction," Junho interjected. "They're mobilizing the combined fleet, over 2,000 warships." Chen's expression didn't change. "We expected that. What we need to understand is why the Council refuses diplomatic engagement. We've sent 17 communication attempts since first contact." Taiho sighed heavily. "The Council has existed for 50,000 years, General. In all that time, they've never encountered a species that advanced so rapidly or fought so unusually. It frightens them, though they would never admit it." "Fear is understandable," Chen replied. "What we don't understand is the jump to annihilation as a response. Because you represent something they've never faced, Taiho explained. A species that doesn't follow predictable patterns. Tell me, what drives your people now? Is it revenge for the attacks on Earth? Chen considered the question carefully. No. While many humans are angry, what drives us is survival. Your council tried to destroy us without provocation. We must ensure that never happens again. Taiho nodded slowly. Not conquest, not empire building. Just survival. We have no interest in ruling alien worlds, Elder, but we will not be ruled either. We're prepared to defend ourselves by any means necessary. The conviction in her voice sent a chill through both Taiho and Junho. This wasn't bluster or negotiation tactics. It was simple truth. I will try again to make the council understand, Taiho promised, but their pride has been wounded. 7 worlds taken by primitives in a single day has never happened before. We don't have much time, Chen warned. Our intelligence suggests the combined fleet will target Earth directly. We cannot allow that. The hologram flickered and disappeared, leaving Taiho and Junho in silence. They don't want galactic domination, Junho said quietly. Just to be left alone. Yes, Taiho replied, and that makes them more dangerous than any conquest-driven empire. They fight not for glory or resources, but for existence itself. Across council space, reports flooded in of human ships appearing seemingly at random. Unlike the disciplined, formation-based warfare of the council, humans struck unpredictably, disappeared, then struck elsewhere. Their hyperspace jumps were erratic by council standards, dangerously close to stars and planetary bodies, using gravitational forces in ways council navigators considered suicidal. On the commercial hub world of Nevakar, panic spread as 3 human vessels appeared, in low orbit without warning. Instead of attacking, they broadcast a simple message. The council started this war. Ask why they risk your lives for their pride. Then they disappeared before defense forces could respond. Similar psychological operations occurred throughout council territory. Human ships would appear, deliver messages questioning council leadership, and vanish. Some broadcasts included detailed information about council military corruption or resource hoarding that most citizens had never known. In the Praxis system, home to the technologically advanced Elkar species, the local government made a shocking announcement. They had signed a separate peace agreement with Earth representatives. Other border systems quickly followed suit, breaking centuries of unwavering council loyalty. High Minister Jaiwan watched these developments with growing fury. They're turning our own people against us. This cannot stand. But her advisors delivered more troubling news. Analysis shows that human technology is advancing at an exponential rate. They're not just copying our systems, they're improving them. Their hyperspace drives now operate on principles our scientists don't fully understand. Impossible, G1 snapped. They were using chemical rockets a year ago. That's precisely why we underestimated them, her science advisor explained. No species has ever advanced this quickly. It defies all developmental models. Reports from military commanders grew increasingly desperate. The combined fleet, designed for overwhelming force against conventional opponents, struggled against human hit-and-run tactics. Council soldiers trained to follow precise protocols couldn't match the improvisation of human fighters. In a desperate attempt to regain control, G1 called an emergency council session. As representatives gathered, a startling announcement came from the Dravex, one of the council's oldest member species. They were withdrawing from the combined fleet and seeking direct negotiations with Earth. The humans don't want our territories, their representative explained. They want security guarantees. This war benefits no one but arms manufacturers and power-hungry officials. As murmurs of agreement spread through the chamber, Elder Taiho watched silently. It had taken the brink of devastating war, but finally, the council was beginning to understand what he had tried to tell them from the beginning. Humanity wouldn't be conquered, not because they couldn't be defeated, but because they simply refused to accept defeat as an option. The Grand Hall of Reconciliation gleamed under the light of 3 suns, its transparent dome offering a view of the stars where both human and council ships now moved in carefully coordinated patterns. 5 years had passed since the first disastrous contact between humanity and the Galactic Council. Today, representatives from over 400 species gathered to formalize what many had thought impossible, a new galactic governance structure, built on equality rather than dominance. Elder Taiho stood at the entrance, his ancient body requiring the support of a hover chair now. Beside him waited Ambassador Hyejin, Earth's primary representative. Once a linguistics professor specializing in communication theory, she had become humanity's voice among the stars. Nervous? Taiho asked her with a gentle smile. Terrified. Hyejin admitted, I keep expecting someone to realize that I'm just a former university professor, pretending to know how to forge interstellar peace. That's precisely why you're perfect for this role, Taiho replied. You approach this with humility. The old council never understood the value of that. They moved together into the hall where delegates mingled, some towering 3 meters tall, others floating in environmental bubbles, all communicating through advanced translation systems partly designed by humans. In the center of the room stood the confluence table, a massive circular structure with exactly equal spaces for each representative. High Minister Jiwon was noticeably absent. Following the collapse of the war effort and the fracturing of the Bai Council, she had resigned in disgrace. Many of her most ardent supporters had similarly disappeared from public life. It's time, announced the ceremonial timekeeper. The delegates took their positions. For the first time in galactic history, seating was arranged alphabetically by species name, rather than by technological development level or military power. A small but significant change proposed by the human delegation. Elder Taiho took the speaker's position, his hover chair rising slightly to give him prominence. Fellow beings of this vast and wondrous galaxy, he began, his voice amplified yet somehow still carrying the warmth of personal conversation. Today, we acknowledge the end of one era and the beginning of another. The Galactic Council, as it existed for 50,000 years, is no more. Murmurs rippled through the assembly, though everyone knew this truth. Hearing it stated so plainly carried emotional weight. We gathered here represent the galactic confluence, an alliance of equals bound not by force or fear, but by mutual respect and shared prosperity. Taiho gestured toward Hyejin. I invite Ambassador Hyejin of Earth to address the assembly. Hyejin stepped forward, her simple blue diplomatic uniform standing in stark contrast to the elaborate ceremonial garb of many delegates. She carried no weapons, no symbols of military achievement, just a small pin bearing Earth's image. 5 years ago, she began, humanity had never met another intelligent species. We dreamed of this moment, speculated about it in our stories, wondered if we were alone in the universe. Our first contact should have been a moment of celebration and wonder. Her voice carried no accusation, just simple facts. Instead, we faced annihilation for the crime of being different, for not fitting neatly into the Council's expectations of how a developing species should behave. We fought not because we wanted to, but because we had to. Hyejin looked around the room, making eye contact with representatives from species that had once been enemies. Humans have a saying, necessity is the mother of invention. When faced with extinction, we innovated. When threatened, we united. These are not unique human traits, but they are central to our story. She gestured to the viewscreen behind her, which displayed images of human scientific teams working alongside alien counterparts on joint projects. In just 5 years, we've achieved technological parity with civilizations thousands of years older than our recorded history, not because we're inherently superior, but because circumstances forced rapid adaptation. The Dravex representative, once a fierce military commander and now a leading peace advocate, stood to speak. Ambassador Hyejin speaks truth that many find uncomfortable. My people believe technological superiority gave us the right to determine the fate of lesser species. The humans showed us the flaw in that thinking. Technology without wisdom is merely sophisticated barbarism. Across the hall, representatives from species that had broken away from the Council nodded in agreement. The painful lessons of the failed war had fundamentally changed galactic politics. The confluence operates on 3 principles, Taiho continued. First, respect for sovereignty. No species may force its will upon another. Second, open exchange of knowledge. Scientific advancement must benefit all. Third, collective security. An attack on one member is an attack on all. These principles would have been considered radical under the old council. Now they were accepted as foundations for a new order. The signing ceremony began. One by one, representatives approached the confluence table to place their biosignature on the accord. When Hyejin's turn came, she paused briefly before signing. Earth signs. This accord not as conquerors, she said clearly, but as partners. Our goal was never dominance, only survival, and the right to determine our own path among the stars. Today we ensure that right for all species. Her words echoed through the hall as her signature joined the others. The galactic confluence was officially born. Later, at the celebration that followed, species that had been mortal enemies just years before shared food, drink, and conversation. Cultural exchanges that would have been unthinkable under the old regime happened organically, with genuine curiosity replacing suspicious caution. Elder Taiho found himself surrounded by a group of young diplomats from various worlds, eager to hear his perspective. "Is it true," asked a Malorian representative, "that you predicted the humans would unite the galaxy by fighting against the Council?" Taiho laughed softly. "I predicted they would respond to threats differently than expected. I never imagined this outcome, though I welcome it. There's a saying spreading among the border worlds," mentioned a Volari diplomat. "The humans fight not to conquer, but to end all fights. Is that accurate?" "More accurate than most would admit," Taiho replied. "Humans are not naturally peaceful. Their history is filled with conflict, but they've learned, perhaps better than most species, that true security comes not from domination, but from creating systems where war becomes unnecessary." Across the room, Hyejin was deep in conversation with scientists from the Elkar delegation, discussing the human breakthrough in quantum communication that had revolutionized faster-than-light information transfer. "You reached in decades what took us centuries," an Elkar researcher marveled. "How?" "We stood on your shoulders," Hyejin replied honestly. "With access to your foundational work, we simply explored unconventional applications. When survival depends on innovation, you learn to question every assumption." What none spoke aloud, but many thought, was how close the galaxy had come to losing the unique perspective that humans brought. Had the Council succeeded in their attempt to subjugate Earth, the remarkable synthesis of technologies now benefiting all would never have emerged. As the celebration continued into the night, Elder Taiho made his way to a quiet observation platform. Overlooking the Assembly World's capital city, Ambassador Hyejin joined him, both taking a moment of quiet reflection amidst the historic day. "Did you ever think we'd reach this point?" she asked. Taiho watched ships from dozens of worlds moving through the night sky, their lights tracing paths of cooperation rather than conflict. "I hoped," he said simply. "When I first studied human history, I saw a species that consistently defied expectations, for better and worse. Most Council species achieved stability by eliminating conflict. Humans achieved progress through conflict, yet somehow retained compassion. We're still learning that balance," Hyejin admitted. "As are we all," Taiho replied, gesturing to the stars above. "But now we learn together." A new galactic order had begun, with humanity not at its head, but at its heart, connecting ancient civilizations in ways they had never imagined possible. What had started with a warning ignored had ended with a lesson learned. True strength comes not from technological superiority, but from the capacity to adapt, unite, and evolve when facing extinction. The stars shined a little brighter that night, witnessing the dawn of a new era of cooperation across the vast expanse of space.